a blank slate. It's a scratch, 1-1-0-0, and it's first to 3.
I like that mentality. It makes this Game 3 that much more exciting. As we say howdy to our reporter, Tim McMahon, who's covering the Oklahoma City Thunder for us. I love when NBA Today has multiple Tims on the show. Let's talk a little bit about Shai here, Tim, because when you're looking at Game 2, what is it that he can take from that performance in his quest, in his words, to be the first to 3?
Howdy, Malika. You know, I don't know if there's such a thing as a mediocre 38-point performance, but by Shai's MVP standards, that's what he had in Game 1. And then Game 2, that was SGA. That's the guy who was the MVP. Everything was decisive. It was efficient. His passing was as brilliant as his scoring. And one thing they did in that game, they set these screens further away from the hoop on average than any other game in his career. There were 24 screens that were set 30-plus feet away from the hoop. The Thunder averaged 1.55 points per possession on those plays. That is printing money in the NBA. So, you know, Shai says he tries to be ready for everything, doesn't necessarily try to predict what the other team's going to do, just read and react. You got to imagine the Pacers are going to try to find some kind of different answers because SGA and the Thunder just picked them apart with that high pick and roll in Game 2.
Yeah, we're going to be watching to see if that's an adjustment that they make. Hey, Tim, before we let you go, we saw you got some cowboy hats before you left Oklahoma City. I'm a little salty that we didn't get invited to the party, but you said that you were the best looking of the 3. We couldn't get one that fit Perk?
Man, Perk.
You're the best looking of the 3, Tim?
Listen, of the 4 when you include Bontemps, but that's like being the toughest guy in the choir with that crowd. That's not a very impressive statement.
Well, you know what? We may need to have you bring on some of those hats to set. We really appreciate the time. Let's go from one Tim to another. It's my favorite thing to do as we dive in with the one and only Tim Legler. A little Legler's Lab on SGA because he's been incredible. How's he getting it done?
Well, to Tim's point, let's talk about these high ball screens and what the issue has been for Indiana. Containment at the point of attack has been basically non-existent. And there's a few things that they can do to adjust. Again, none of this stuff's easy, but I think it starts with this. You can't square him up defensively. You've got to establish what side you want to force him to because that's where your help is going to be. When you give him a choice of either direction, he's going to destroy you. Also, I think if the screen's this far out, maybe go under, meet him on the other side. If you are going to switch it, keep him going in that direction. Force him to that strong side corner where the rotations are more obvious. Instead, nobody really knows when to step up when he goes to the middle of the floor. And if you're going to give him that shot, a steady diet of it, he might break the single-game playoff scoring record if you allow him to do that. Second thing, you have to make sure you communicate what side your help is coming up on. Right here, clearly, the help is coming to Shai's left hand. You can't let him then go right because now he's put 2 defenders in his rearview mirror. And then the last component, you saw this coming for 20 feet if you're Nesmith. You've got to meet him outside the restricted area and force that to be a kick out to Lou Dort and make them make some 3-point shots with guys running at them. I just think it's been as crazy as it sounds, it's been kind of easy for Shai. At the point of attack, getting where he wants to on the floor, I think Indiana's got to do something to try to affect that.
I don't think that's crazy.
I don't think it
makes it look easy.
Well, and 38 points, as other Tim said in Game 1 here, it seems like the difference in Game 2 was the efficiency, right? Yeah. And the fact that he got some help, particularly from Chet Holmgren.
You know what's crazy? You have to deal with SGA on one side, and then you go inside and you have to deal with Chet Holmgren as well. And to me, you know, they lost Game 1 because they went small ball. They won Game 2 because they leaned on their bigs, and Chet bounced back in the biggest way. He had 15 points, I think 11 in the first half. And what I love is it's on both ends. You see the swat right there. He has guarded the most possessions and field goals in this finals, holding his opponents to 40% shooting, which is tremendous. But it's his literal shooting that is the separator. We all loved when he came into the league, rivaling, you know, Wemby.
Yeah.
All of the abilities that he has, the tremendous upside. People forget, is he 22 years old? Like 23, around there? He's growing in real time, literally. But also, I do think he has to make his will, impose his will like he did in Game 2.
But we have seen the others, if you will, for the Oklahoma City struggle, for the Thunder struggle when they go on the road here, Tim. And I'm wondering if that is going to kind of rear its ugly head again.
Well, I think so. And I think to counter that, you're going to have to see somebody from Indiana's roster like kind of go off, right? Whether that's one of their stars, which I think they're obviously going to need one of those guys to do that. But if it's not them, then maybe it's a Miles Turner. You know, make 5 threes threes in a game. Maybe it's Neesmith. Maybe it's Nembhard. They have to have that X factor. If you look at their first 2 games offensively, yes, they had that great closing spurt to game 1, and obviously the big shot by Halliburton, but nobody really has operated close to their ceiling offensively in the series through 2 games. For OKC, Shea's done it twice. You just mentioned Chet, and also they had 2 role players combined for 9 threes last game.
Right.
Yeah, also, you know, when we think about players and these swings, you might see a possession where you miss a shot quickly and someone else makes a 3. We talk about 5-point swings. The Thunder have the ultimate, you know, swing type of player in Alex Caruso. When he gives you 15-plus points, almost 20 points, and he holds your star player, you know, you limit the defensive possessions that you have to deal with. I think those are the X factors coming off the bench as well.
It feels like we haven't seen the best, certainly, from the Indiana Pacers. We've only seen like 9 minutes, really, in the 4th quarter of game 1 where they were really able to elevate their game. But OKC doesn't feel like they've played their best either. Hey, coming up here on our show, let's hear from Pacers coach Rick Carlisle, also from Pascal Siakam, what they have to say about trying to slow down the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's been 25 years since Indiana hosted a finals game. What were you doing in 2000, Shanae?
Since I was in middle school?
I was rocking
was
that
it
kindergarten.
elementary?
I was in there.
What is it? I was second
Plus,
grade.
Speaking of Indy, we're going to have an update on when we can expect to see Caitlin Clark back for the Fever. Don't go anywhere. NBA Today will be back after this.
Yeah. First, second grade, something like that.
Don't worry, Lex.
Sorry, Lex. We'll leave you
I
with
was
that.
retiring from the NBA.